Welcome in, everybody. This is the Frosty Vulpix, or better known as the Vulpix Aura, and welcome to the Helping Hands Charity League, Week 2 of battles. We have a lot of exciting battles to show you today, with the main events being between the Goldenrod Goldangos and Frosty Vulpix, or myself. Really exciting battles. Excited to get into it. Yeah, let's hop into the team leaders of battle number 1. We have the Philadelphia Infinite Fusions, led by Espy, playing for the St. Jude's Children's Hospital. Their current ranking at ninth place at 0-1, having lost their first week battle, but going for redemption this week, going for the win. We see their OU Pokemon, Toxapex and Decidueye, not getting any usage last week, but we will see if that does end up changing this week. Their UU Pokemon of Espeon and Floatzel, Espeon being the 1-1 record right now, having knocked out one Pokemon and falling one time. The RU-mons of this team being Zoroark, Typhlosion, and Sigilyph, with Typhlosion being 0-1, having been brought last week, but unfortunately falling before it had the chance to do any knockouts for it. The NU mons of this team being Linoon, Drapion, and Galarian Stunfisk, which I will say now that there were a couple of trades that happened. Especially with this team had 2 trades, but that will be reflected in the next week's team sheets. We're not going to worry about that now. Anyway, the Drapion being 1-1, having 1 knockout and 1 faint. And for the PU Pokemon, the Murkrow, Meowstic, Unpheasant, and Solrock. The Murkrow being 1-1, the Meowstic and Solrock being 0-1. What about the replays? Oh, like if you're asking if you missed any. No, you didn't miss any. We actually just started. We just started because I was late because everything decided to not save. Welcome in, Zekrom. Yeah, we were looking at the Philadelphia trying to get their first win against their opponent, stabbing Dratinis, led by Nightmare Enterprises, playing for Habitat for Humanity. Their current ranking, 4th place at 1-0, looking to increase that record to 2-0. Their OU Mons being Iron Moth and Iron Valiant, those 2 scary Paradox Mons. The Iron Moth being 5-0, knocking down 5 of their opponent's Pokemon last week. The Iron Valiants doing the rest at 1-1. We don't see any other knockouts from this team, but the UU Mons of this team, Charmery and Gastrodon. The RU of the Chandelure, Ditto, and Sharpedo. And UU Mons of Xatu, Ninjask, and Rotom. And the PU Mons of Dugtrio, Gothitelle, Absol, and Pincurchin. The Pincurchin having been knocked out once. The Pincurchin doing his job last week, is getting in there, setting up the train for the Paradox Mons, and then falling, doing it to itself actually, using the Memento against that Stantler, I'm pretty sure was what happened. Yeah, we see these Paradox Mons. We actually, I guess this is a good time to talk about this. We did go into, after last stream, it was suggested that maybe the team leaders who have multiple Paradox Mons maybe only bring 1 per week, like having them be limited to 1 Paradox Mon per week. But then I kind of realized that, well, I was informed that these 2 teams kind of built their teams around that. So it wouldn't really be fair that, basically their whole strategy is just out the window. Like, the strategy they built their teams for would be out the window if we limited it to 1 Paradox Mon per battle. So, it is a little bit overpowered at first. However, as more of these streams happen, we're hoping to see more ways to counter these Paradox strategies. If they become like more and more predictable, that's kind of what we're hoping for. If we do see it continuing to be a problem though, then we will revisit and see and just see if we make some rule adjustments for this, because there were also a few other trades that happened with another team who has now a bunch of Paradox Pokemon. Um, so we will be monitoring that situation, I guess, and seeing if it ends up being too broken. But let's see the starting lineups of these two teams, the Philadelphia Infant and the Dabbing for Battle 1. I did add chat on top just in case I do respond to chat during these battles, which I probably won't be doing during the battles, but most likely during the team sheet. Everything is when I will be responding to chat, but still nice to have, especially because these are going onto YouTube. It's nice for you to be able to see what I'm responding. But you see the Philadelphia Infinite Fusions with the starting lineup of the Espeon, Lord Cheese himself, Varian Sunfisk. We have this Hisuian, Decidueye, Meowstic, Unpheasant, and Toxapex. This Toxapex, one of my personal banes. This is so just chonky, and I don't like Toxapex, but Unpheasant, I'm actually really curious about to see what the strategy of this Unpheasant could possibly be. I personally was always under the impression that Unpheasant's just not a good Pokemon, but I could be wrong. So I'm really curious to see what this Unpheasant has to offer. We of course see Meowstic being a fantastic screen setter. So let's see if that's the strat that happened this time around. You see the Hisuian Decidueye. I am excited to see Hisuian Decidueye in action because I do know its move is like amazing, but I've never actually seen it in battle. So maybe I can see some Decidueye popping off. And of course the namesake Pokemon, the Espeon here. I know nothing about Galarian Sunfisk because all I know is that it's Lord G. You see the Dabbing Dratinis with the two Paradox Mons, Iron Moth and the Iron Valiant with the Pincursion. These three being the really good setup Mons here to work together really well with the Pincursion with the Electric Surge. The two Paradox Mons being benefited, whatever, by the Electric Surge that the Pincursion can set up. We see the Skarmory, who is really good with setting up really good with setting up traps. And we have the Gothitelle and the Dugtrio, who are good at locking you in with Arena Trap and Shadow Tag. Goodness, this stream is gonna suck. Let's hop into the battle, though. Let's see what these two teams lead with, and let's get into week 2, battle 1, Philadelphia Infinite Fusions versus the Dabbing Dratinis. You see the Infinite Fusions leading with the Espeon right away, with the Dabbing Dratinis leading with the Pincursion to immediately set up that Electric Surge for those Paradox Mons. Immediate swap into the Galarian Sunfisk with a Mimicry to make it into an Electric type, and then of course the immediate swap from the Dabbing Dratinis into that Iron Valiant. But then switches right away into Shake, Rattle, and Roll, the Dugtrio, while the Sunfisk goes in for a Stealth Rock. The Dugtrio hits with a Earthquake, but then the Sunfisk goes to the reflect type, turning into a Ground type, but then it gets hit right back with an Earthquake to knock itself out. The Dugtrio outspeeding the Toxapex that switches in, doing so much damage, and the knockoff onto the Dugtrio to knock off its Choice Scarf. And the Baneful Bunker coming in from the Toxapex to try to protect from this Earthquake coming in. Of course, it does protect, does get a little bit of a recovery, but I don't know if it's going to be enough to save it from another Earthquake that happens. And the Dugtrio knocks out the Toxapex. The Hisuian Decidueye then swapping in to replace that Toxapex. Dugtrio then switches out right away into the Skarmory. Gets hit by the traps, but it's not really too big of a deal. Trailblaze coming in to boost the Decidueye speed, and it does take a little bit of Rocky Helmet damage though, as the Electric Surge fades from the field. Decidueye swaps right back into the Unpheasant, with the Skarmory going for the Defog to get rid of the Stealth Rocks that were on the field. And the Brave Bird coming in from this Unpheasant Of course, taking a resisted hit and getting recoil damage from both the Rocky Helmet and the recoil. But Unpheasant goes for the defog as the Skarmory goes for the Stealth Rocks, with the Skarmory going for the Roost to get itself back up to full HP. Unpheasant goes for another Brave Bird, doing a little bit of chip damage, and of course getting hit by the Rocky Helmet and the recoil of the Brave Bird. The Body Press then coming in, doing almost enough to knock it out, but not quite. Night Slash doing only 13%, but the Rocky Helmet takes down the Unpheasant, with the Skarmory setting up another layer of Stealth Rocks. Meowstic then swaps in to replace it, with the Skarmory switching into Electric Avenue. The Pincurchin, I love that name. The Fake Out doing just a little bit of chip damage to this Pincurchin with the Light Screen being set up. A layer of spikes then gets set up by the Pincurchin, with the Meowstic swapping into the Espeon, of course, who gets hit by the spikes and Stealth Rocks, with the Pincurchin setting up another. But the spikes getting magic bounced into the other team. So now there's a layer of spikes set up for the Dratinis, with the Dratinis going for the Memento to knock the attack and special attack of Espeon down by 2. The Quark Drive gets activated from the Iron Valiant that gets swapped in, with Meowstic coming in, getting hurt by the spikes and the Stealth Rocks, with the Shadow Ball not doing too much damage, but it's still enough to chonk it out kind of big. The Fake Out, though, comes in from the Meowstic, and of course flinches the Iron Valiant. The Reflect then comes in from the Meowstic, but it is... Sorry, words. The Shadow Ball comes in, does a little bit more damage, with the, of course, Iron Valiant outspeeding the Meowstic and taking it down through the Light Screen. Light Screen only having two turns left. But the Electric Train does fall. So it's not the Iron Valiant is not words. Speed boost anymore, but it still outspeeds the Hisui and the Seichuai and gets hit by a Moonblast. Just the Espeon is left, Light Screen falling, just in time for the Espeon to swap in. Is it enough? It is not enough. The Iron Valiant going for the Shadow Ball to knock out the Espeon. Iron Valiant just being really, really strong on this battle. And the Dabbing Dratinis being the victors for Week 2, bringing their record up to 2-0.